This is the Backlog Battle Podcast, episode 190, Masterpiece Theater. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Backlog Battle Podcast. This is Alex. Today, Anthony is actually out. He is actually working on some school stuff right now. But I've actually decided to bring in a guest of mine who I've been talking to a bit and trying to collaborate with over the past couple of months and stuff. And I think you guys will really enjoy him. But before we go into that, I just want to take this opportunity to kind of say that we have a new survey that we just put up on mybacklogbattle.tv. I've completely forgotten to mention it last week. But if you go to mybacklogbattle.tv and you see the navigation bar up there with a whole bunch of links, there is a link that says survey. Now, this is different from the survey that I asked you guys to fill in about a month or so ago. That one was actually conducted by a third-party company, and we didn't like that all your information and stuff is going to somebody else, so we made our own. This one's going to be like a Google Forms kind of situation. So again, click that survey link. It'll have like a whole bunch of questions about this podcast, the videos that we've been producing over the past several weeks, several months, and also a place where you can put your username. Now, it could be a username that we know you about, of, or out, whatever, but also it could be like just anything. Just remember the username, because we're going to use these usernames as a way to raffle off things like free games and stuff like that and what have you. And that entry is good for any raffle moving forward, up until, of course, we launch a new survey, which it's not going to happen as often as, you know, what happened just now. So anyways, again, go to mybacklogbattle.tv, click on the survey link on the very top, and yeah, you're guaranteed a spot in the survey, or in the raffles. I mean, obviously, you're doing the survey. Anyways, let's bring in our guest. He is known as Shintai on YouTube, and I've worked with him on Games and Me, so howdy, man. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Humor me here. Are you Oscar, or are you Daniel, or are you Shintai, or are you all three? What are you?
I'm an amalgamation. I'm all three.
Apparently. But what is really your real name? Because, again, like, my phone has you as Oscar, and I'm not going to say your last name in case, you know, you want to be private about it. But, like, yeah, it's always been like that since 2009, you know?
Which is technically correct. So my first name is Oscar, but my middle name is Daniel.
Okay.
And the reason there might be some confusion and why I would bring up my middle name is because my dad his first name is also Oscar. Okay. And so the compromise that my family came up with was, well, you know, his middle name is Daniel, so we'll call him Danny. So my family generally calls me that, and I've grown to prefer to be called Danny over Oscar.
Okay. So we'll call you Danny. Hopefully I'll remember, because it's funny because, like, I remember us starting to talk about like 2-3 months ago, and then the first time, like, I actually called you on the phone, I actually called you Oscar, and I don't even know what you were thinking back then, but you're probably like, oh, that's weird, I haven't been called that name in a long ass time.
Well, no, that's actually not the case. Like, my family and my close friends would usually call me that, but but whenever I was at school, or if I was talking to someone at work, you know, they would normally call me Oscar, so it's not that weird, you know. Most people call me Oscar more than Danny. It's more family that calls me Danny.
I see. Okay. So, all right. That doesn't really answer my question, but you know what? I'll just call you Daniel. How about that? Is that a deal?
That's perfectly fine with me.
Okay.
You know, some people actually thought Shintai was my real name,
What?
and I'm like, no, I'm not Japanese.
I don't think so. I've seen your photo. You're far and away not a Japanese person or an Asian. I'm closer to being an Asian than you are, okay? That's kind of funny, though. So, all right.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm really happy that you're here. It's been quite a long time coming. I'm really excited that you're here. And I even talking to you leading up to this episode, I was like really super excited to finally get you on the show. Because
Thank you.
Because we really have a lot of chemistry when it comes to like talking about like game design and stuff, which we may or may not, get into. So hold your horses there. Who's like really excited, but we share a common bond with RPGs because even though, at least for me, even though like I'm really into JRPGs, I have certain kinds of criteria that I really super like on JRPGs and stuff. And that seem to be, I don't want to say conflicting, but more like contrasting to what you generally like in JRPGs. Like, for example, and stuff like, you're a huge fan of the Tales series, right?
Yes, very, very much so.
Yeah, and for me, like, I'm a casual kind of Tales fan. I'm not really into it, but from time to time, I'll like jump in and play a game in a series, and I'd be super excited about it to be able to play it. But and that's kind of like what I mean. So that being said,
me on the other hand, I went as far as to play the PS1 version of Tales of Phantasia, which was English translated, never actually came out over here.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason I did that is because we only got the GBA version, which sucks. That version is terrible.
Oh.
So I went out of my way to play an English patched PS1 version of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's pretty amazing.
I'm pretty hardcore about the series.
I can see that now. Holy crap! Mind you guys, like I kid you not, I did not know how big of a fan he is until I heard this section right here. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing this. Like, I thought you were just like, yeah, I bought all of them up until today. I didn't know you're like, oh, you went back that far? Holy crap!
Yeah, dude. I actually went as far as to buying a physical copy of Tales of Destiny for a little more than I'd like to admit.
Oh, man. Okay.
Because that game is rare.
Oh, God. Let's not get into that because, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully family members aren't listening to be like, wait, you spent what on the game? Anyways. So, all right. So, as I kind of clued in before, we... like our history has been interesting, I suppose, I guess, for the lack of a better term, because
I prefer to say sprawling,
right? Okay, you make it sound like it's like a cornfield with like a lot of different storylines, but it's like, but really what I think what you mean though is that we started really talking lately, especially from a collaborative and from a creative standpoint. But even before that, like all the way back in Games and Me, and, pop quiz for the people who are out there who have been listening to us, who among you have actually been fans of Games and Me before, the podcast, raise your hand or write us on podcast@mybacklogbattle.tv. Yeah, so like at the time you were running youtube.com/Shintai123 and you're not there anymore, right?
No, I've long since abandoned that old channel, and now I have, I think the URL is Shintai Reviews, but when you go to the channel, it'll just say Shintai.
Okay. I'm going to try that right now, because I thought it was like youtube.com/Shintai, and it said like, I have no idea who this is, and I'm like, well, you are a nerd, sir. That's terrible. But, okay, I did try youtube.com/Shintai Reviews, and your YouTube channel did pop up. So go visit youtube.com/Shintai Reviews, guys, and it's really awesome. He actually also runs a podcast called, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Final Bosses podcast?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. I was worried I was going to get that wrong.
No. I think I came up with a pretty simple name, so people are like, oh, Final Bosses.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the idiot who basically like came up with like Backlog Battle, which they're like, ooh, what? Like, at least nobody can misspell it, hopefully. But anyways,
I like the name Backlog Battle. I think it makes you go like, ooh,
yeah.
what's that about?
It is very mysterious in that way. But let's go back to Games and Me though, because I met you because you were actually part of a collaborative group of gamers who also watched anime and stuff, and I don't really remember the name of the group, and I'm not gonna mention it here, but then I feel like from there some of you guys, some of your group actually started commenting on Anthony's channel, and I think that's actually the first time I was exposed to you guys. And then I discovered your reviews on your old YouTube channel, and I honestly kind of really got enamored, and I thought to myself, like, dude, like this guy, like it's still kind of rough. Mind you, this is 2009. I'm not talking about, Shintai's.
Yeah. No,
sorry.
I completely disavow almost everything I did during that period. I look back on it in utter disgust.
Whoa, okay. I mean, I was gonna say like
maybe that's a little too harsh, but
yeah.
like I feel like my standards right now are much higher than they were at the time. That's why I feel that way about it.
Hey, you know what? I look at some of my old videos on YouTube and I'm like, son, you better start slimming down because you're going on like some overweight shit over there. Like, I am the harshest personal critic like out there, I feel. And I look at those like community questions of the week that we used to post back in the day, and I'm like, oof, man, it's, you want to talk about looking at old stuff? Yeah, if you guys go look for the Games and Me stuff, you'll be like, oh, wow, Alex looks pretty big over there. Anyways, I look at those old videos fondly because, like, we've kind of, like you said, like, we kind of learned a lot just by doing those videos, Like at the time we were so green, we have no idea what to do. And so, but doing them and repeatedly doing them over and over and over actually allowed us to, like, really, truly improve. And mind you guys, for the guys, like, who are listening right now, back then, YouTube had a strict 10 to 15 minute policy if you could upload something for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I remember that. That sucked. That I was never a fan of that because I'm quite the long-winded, rambly individual. So I was like, no, give me my time to speak, YouTube.
Yeah, let me rant, goddammit. So yeah. And so we needed to kind of really focus on succinct, I guess, arguments and videos and whatnot. But anyway, so we met at Games and Me. We kind of collaborated on some things. You showed up on some of the podcasts that we were doing then. We were doing some videos. And then just all of a sudden, Games and Me breaks up. And then we've just kind of lost track over time. But
yeah, I think Games and Me breaking up essentially, that was where we touched base and connected, and then when that was gone, we had less of a reason to talk to each other. Yeah, and disconnected as a result.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think, it's kind of interesting to I don't want to say let go of people, because that's not really what happened here. Essentially fall out of touch with certain people and then just come back and say, like, look, man, what have you been up to? Like, how you been? And that's kind of like exactly what happened recently, because I wandered into your channel just kind of hoping, I can, see that you've grown as a content creator and as a YouTuber, and you have a really successful channel. I think so. You might not think so, but I think it's pretty freaking cool, especially if
it's all right.
hey, you know what? I love the talks with the JRPGs that you've talked about. I love the game design conversations that you have. And again, like what Daniel said, it's very freaking deep. So if you guys love that, again, this is the last time I'm going to shill for your channel. Just kidding. I will later on again. It's youtube.com/Shintai reviews. That's spelled SHINTAI. So, speaking of content on your channel, I remember several months ago, the first video that I ever saw of yours was your video just completely ripping apart the new Star Ocean. And,
yes, yeah. I'm very proud of that one.
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of give the whole secret sauce away, or like, the whole point of the video and whatnot. But on this podcast, like Anthony and I talked about it, and obviously Anthony doesn't have a lot of time for video games these days. So like the first thing that he said about like the new Star Ocean was it's a pretty good game, and I'm like, how much of that is actually true? So that's actually the motivation that I had for watching your video. And I have to say, like, I was really kind of impressed with how articulated your points were. And I guess it kind of goes hand in hand, being a fan of Tales and being a fan of Star Ocean in a way that...
Yeah, the two series are inexorably linked with each other.
Yeah.
Because originally they were both the same team. They used to be Wolf Team. Mm-hmm. But then when they were trying to make the first Tales of Phantasia, the two teams split off because of some disagreements with the way that Namco was handling the publishing of the title, and they were meddling with the game itself, and some of the developers were okay with it, some of it weren't, and the ones that weren't okay with it split off, became Tri-Ace, and then did the Star Ocean series.
Right, which, basically became a force to reckon with on its own much later on. Although, granted, the Tales series has more games in it than all of Star Ocean, but I think there's something to be said about that. But yeah,
I'd probably go as far as to say that there's probably more Tales games than there are the entire video gameography of Tri-Ace as a company.
Oh wow, okay. They also didn't Tri-Ace also make like Valkyrie Profile?
Yes.
Okay, that was I kind of forgot about that, and then you mentioned the name Tri-Ace, and I'm like, that's right, because actually, funny story, as you were talking about Tri-Ace, I was desperately trying to remember the name of the fucking company. I was like, is it, it starts with a T, it has an A, and then you said Tri-Ace, I'm like, Tri-Ace, that's what they were.
Yeah, they've made some good stuff. They've also made some questionable stuff. Infinite Undiscovery, not so good. Star Ocean, I think, is probably one of the more successful works, as well as Valkyrie Profile. I also liked Radiata Stories. That was really good.
What? That was them?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, there is actually a costume to play. There's two costumes, actually. One where you get to dress up as Fate from Star Ocean 3, and there's another character that dresses up as Claude from Star Ocean 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Radiata Stories, every time I hear about that, I kind of confuse it with Radiant Historia.
Dude, when Radiant Historia got announced, I thought it was a sequel.
See? Okay, I'm not the only one who actually is thinking this too. Thank you. Oh,
and the font is a little similar too.
Yeah.
Yes, I was so convinced, and then really disappointed when I found out it wasn't. I haven't played Radiant Historia, so I don't know if it's like a good game or not. Like, I'm sure it's a good game, but I was just like, man, I really wanted a sequel.
So if you haven't played Radiant Historia, the storyline, I can tell you, is more like, I don't want to say it's similar to Tactics in a way, but like it's more plot driven than it is character driven. So there's political intrigue, there's some things happening to the world and stuff like that, and I feel like I feel like that's an accurate way to describe it, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I actually value character development actually really highly over plot-based storytelling. And
okay, so you're a characters over plot guy.
Yes. So
yeah, I'm similar.
Okay. So maybe you might not enjoy Radiant Historia because of that purpose, but in terms of like its gameplay, it's really fascinating because it does take that whole time / alternate dimension element pretty far. And that's what that game excels at. And I don't know if you remember this when the game first came out several years ago, but when it first came out, it sold out immediately, and Atlas actually had to reprint the game so that more people can get it. Now, that's not going to be a problem because they're actually going to be re-releasing the game on the 3DS. But like, hey, like, it is what it is. So yeah, I don't know, how do you feel about games that have really good gameplay but kind of, especially in RPGs, right, but lacking in the character development type of storytelling as opposed to plot based, etc., etc.?
Okay, so while personally I do prefer more character driven over plot driven, which is why I'm a fan of Tales. Not to the point where it's exclusively so.
Okay.
So I can still enjoy something that I feel has a really engaging story, but may not necessarily have the strongest cast. But I think the cast would at least need to be decent. So I do have at least like some prerequisite.
Okay.
But if we're talking about games that are more gameplay focused as opposed to like narrative focused, I'm totally okay with that. I'm a huge fan of Platinum games who are completely gameplay over story, and I'm a huge fan of those games. The way I see it generally is I can put up with some crap if there's enough good to outweigh it. So, but at the same time, like, I can ignore the stories in the Platinum Games' games, but if the story is like really actively bad, then that might even impede on my enjoyment of the gameplay as well. So it's like a case-by-case basis, I would say.
Gotcha. This kind of reminds me of a conversation we had the other day about Kingdom Hearts 2. or Kingdom Hearts in general. Not Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts, the entire fucking series in general. Because I remember us just kind of like really going on and on about like, how the first one was actually pretty damn good. And then it goes off the deep end when they make the GBA games, and now they have numbers after the name Kingdom Hearts that absolutely make no fucking sense. Like
it makes no sense. Yeah. Let me ask you a very specific question that no one has ever been able to answer. If Roxas is Sora's nobody, and the nobody is the body without a heart, then how is it that Sora still has a body?
God, I hate that question. I hate that question, not because I can't answer it, but because it shows how fucking ridiculous that storyline's...
Wait, you can answer it?
No, I'm not gonna answer it. I'm just saying, I hate the question because it's a ridiculous fucking question that just brings to light how ridiculous all of Kingdom Hearts is. Now, let me reiterate this. I liked the first one. I can actually almost say that I might even love it, right? I still have my PS2.
It's a really good game.
Yeah, I have my PS2 copy and, by the way, my Japanese PS2 copy. That's how much I loved that game. It was like, well, it has a shiny cover. That's why I still have it, right? But for Christ's sake, like, okay, first of all, Ansem is great. Billy Zane, Titanic bad guy, fucking awesome, right? And then I play part 2, right? And to discover that
it makes no sense.
Billy Zane is gone, but there's another Ansem played by Christopher Lee, one of my favorite actors ever. Dracula. I mean, come on, right? And he's apparently a good version of Ansem, and the Ansem we fought wasn't the real Ansem. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Who, like, is this like, am I being...
Okay, so I can actually answer this.
Oh,
so
no.
kind of.
Do we really? But hang on a second. Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Do we really care about the answer?
Probably not.
There you go. So let's just kind of sweep Kingdom Hearts under the carpet, please, and not ever mention it ever again. Although I have this weird feeling that we might, because the last time this happened to us, we kept mentioning Kingdom Hearts over and over during our entire conversation. So
there's just something about it that, recently this guy named Kadikarus, he's a video maker on YouTube. I like him. He's actually been playing through the Kingdom Hearts games, and he's been reviewing them as well, and gotten up to Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay.
And I like his approach to the series because he basically he acknowledges fully that it's really, really dumb but entertaining.
Okay.
So like he fully acknowledges that this is just a bunch of dumb crap, but he still finds a lot of enjoyment and entertainment out of it regardless of that. And I'm like, yeah, I could totally get that.
Yeah. I think I remember from our conversation you said like you will still play 3 because of the gameplay, but completely shut out your brain for like the storytelling because it's not even going to make fucking sense.
No, yeah, totally. Like
yeah,
I played a fragmentary passage, which is basically
I don't even know what that is. Like, where does that fall? Where does that fall in the storyline? Is that before?
You want to know where it falls?
No. That's rhetorical. No, absolutely not.
It takes place.
No,
it takes place during the ending of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Oh fuck me! No. How does that even work? No. You know what? I keep asking rhetorical questions and you keep answering them. This is a bad precedent. Let's keep on moving.
All right.
that being said, I want to say this absolutely clearly, okay? Even though we're making fun of like Kingdom Hearts and stuff, I want to kind of stress that as, you know, members of the Backlog Battle Army, we're not making fun of you as a player for liking it, right? Like that's not how we are as people. Like I feel like a little bit of levity when it comes to the games that we play is kind of nice, and sometimes it brings forth some of the silliness that video games have sometimes, right? Like, and like I said, like I do love the Kingdom Hearts games, even though, you know, I make fun of them a lot and say that I really hate it. I hate the storyline because that's the number one thing that really irks me. But that being said, let this not be a condemnation of you liking the series, I guess is what I'm saying. You know,
kind of the way that I see it is when I criticize a game, that is a criticism that is specifically levied at the game itself, and it should be in no way taken as a reflection of anyone else that enjoys it, because we all enjoy things for different reasons. And even if I, you know, may legitimately hate something, I'm friends with plenty of people that enjoy things that I outright hate, but that doesn't change my opinion of them as individuals, because I can recognize and understand that they have their own reasons for enjoying it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I think that's the best way to kind of leave it at that. It's like, you know, we're an inclusive community. We love all of you guys, regardless of what you guys play and stuff. But I think we can all agree that sometimes Kingdom Hearts can go off the deep end.
I think even fans can admit, like, yeah, sometimes it gets a little out there.
Yeah. And I admit, you know, like there's some really cool things with like Kingdom Hearts 3. In fact, I'll tell you this, Daniel. I don't think I told you this before, but this dude basically tweeted when Square Enix said that the game was coming out in 2018. He basically tweeted and said, for every single person who liked this tweet, if Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out in 2018, I am buying you guys a copy. Guess how many likes he got?
A lot. Yeah, I remember that tweet.
About like 25,000. One of them was me. Because and I think he tweeted after that, he basically said, "Oh no, what have I done?" So I'm just saying, like, if I actually even had the gall to like his tweet just so I can score a copy of Kingdom Hearts 3, I don't really dislike it that much, maybe, right? But anyways, let's leave it at that. But going back to that though, like that whole specific section about that, I'm the kind of person who might want to play something that I might not like. Does that sound weird? Because, like, I mean, for me,
absolutely.
It sounds weird. Okay, thank you.
No. I meant absolutely in that, like, I can relate. That's what I meant.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Because I was still like on the first half of that sentence, okay. And then you snuck that in there. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not what I meant.
No. So okay, so my love for video games is both for fun, purely fun, and for academic purposes. And from time to time, I've been, criticized by people that I might be too critical of games that I play. And, and I think I want to kind of throw the ball in your court too, because in my case, when I critique a game, it's not that I am slamming on the game for what it is, right? And that's at least that's how I see it. When I'm overly critical on a game, it's because I want more people to buy it, and not necessarily that I want people not to buy it. Like if I say, well, if this game only had this, or this game has this, which is kind of problematic because it doesn't gel well with this, there's an implication that because those things are kind of wonky, that it's not going to attract the kind of numbers that they want to have when they release a game. You know what I'm saying? It's like...
So I think what you're saying is, in your hope is that if the game becomes successful and they make another game, that it would address the issues and we'd get something that has potential and see that potential realized.
Exactly. Like, it's, I hope that my reviews don't come off as malicious, right? And what I really want, like, a good example I think would be, I'm trying to remember a game that I kind of was really critical of, but I really wanted to like. There's this one PS3 downloadable game, I think it was called Amy. It was an only...
Oh, yeah.
It was an okay game for what it is. It was like... I forgot, like, the price, but there were some things that just didn't gel well for that game. Conceptually, it was a really good game, but... or rather, the concept behind it was, could have been a really good game, but then the execution was just kind of like, oh, what the hell is this? Like, it just looked really bad, and I feel like... there's, when I was critiquing the game, I feel like at the time I was being super, super harsh on it. But at the same time, it's like, if you were a person doing QA on this game, right, and you do play modern games in addition to the games that you work on, wouldn't there be a red flag that pops into your head and says, like, you better not release that fucking game right now because that's not ready, And I guess kind of like circling back to... my question is, when you are critiquing a game or when you're talking about a game and stuff, like, what do you want people to kind of come away with by watching any of your videos?
First and foremost is I want to try and explain my perspective on the game as concisely as possible. And I want people to also understand that I'm not trying to be malicious. Mm-hmm. I don't go into games wanting to hate them. Like for the Star Ocean game, for example, I'm a Star Ocean fan. I went into that game expecting to like it. Mm-hmm. So it's not my intention to just slam the game and, that's it. I want to see them do better. I want to see the developers do better. That's especially, Trice as a developer, I know they can do better. And to see them put out something like that was really disappointing. Mm-hmm. So I would say, like, it is on a certain level, it's a case-by-case basis depending on the game. Because some games I might be critical of for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, it does come from a place of wanting to see the developers improve. Mm-hmm. And... on one hand, I do want people to see the video and go like, well, I know this game isn't for me.
Right.
And if the video did somehow get someone to, like, oh, maybe this is for me, and that's cool too. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I do feel that the review is successful if it helps you come to a conclusion.
Yeah. And that's really like the product of good videos, I feel. It's not necessarily the video itself, but the opinions that come out of that, what the audience kind of comes away with after watching that video. And I think that's actually succinctly put. So kind of going back to my case, and I don't want to obviously hog the spotlight and stuff, like I love games because they do offer something that's very different from any other media. And that's why I feel like sometimes I just chase the rainbow and try to play games that aren't even fun, because I feel like it's a good experience to actually play a game that you might not like, just to realize from a personal perspective what makes you not like a game. Now, I'm not saying that every single PlayStation Plus game there is trash, but there is a reason why I have 320 something games on the PlayStation 4, and a lot of those are because of PlayStation Plus. And from time to time, like if I'm not playing anything, I would actually go back to my PlayStation Plus backlog, play a game that I would never, pick up at all, and try to play it. And most of the time, and this is great, I actually have enjoyed them. And then I start researching the company and stuff, and I actually, figure out that, I played some of their games, and they're actually pretty fucking cool. Has that ever happened to you, where you get so engrossed in a game or a series that you've never known, and then you research the company, and all of a sudden, like, you maybe have tried some of their games later on, and discovered that the games they're making actually appeal to you?
Something somewhat similar happened with the director Yoko Taro.
Ah.
So I had played Drakengard 1 and 2, and then one day the game Nier came out, and I had no idea that they were connected.
Oh, really?
So, and I just played it and then realized, like, I kind of realized, like, I've these weapons are kind of similar, because those weapons are in Nier are actually the same ones in the Drakengard games. And then I realized, like, wait a minute. And I did some research and then found out, like, holy crap, this is the same this is the same guy, it's the same director. So it's not exactly what you were saying, but I think it has a similar shade to it of something about the game wanting me to do more research on who made it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like even I think it's just like I've been kind of trained to do that, because I feel like it's not just one person responsible for a game. It's also an entire team. And what's been going on with me lately is when I look at the game, sure, there's like a director that's associated with it, but generally some of the talent that was working with that person actually eventually kind of try to hit it big by going to another company and making their own thing, right? And doing something different. The very earliest notion that I ever did this with, like the very first game that I actually did this with, was the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver series. At first,
great series.
It is a great series. Specifically the first game, and I mean, and all the games were pretty good, but going back to the very first game, which is Soul Reaver, I mean, that's not really the first game technically, but hear me out here.
Technically the first one is Blood Omen.
Yes, which, is made by Silicon Knights. But anyways, Soul Reaver specifically, I really enjoyed it. And at the time, I actually liked it over Ocarina of Time. Yes, very controversial subject matter. But it's because of the way, not just the thematics of it, but also the hoity-toity dialogue that it had, which is kind of funny sometimes. Like, listening to it now, it's like, wow, this is kind of up its own ass sometimes. But also just the creativity of, like, the traversal, right? Like, you can shift from like the soul dimension to like the physical dimension and change the environments out, kind of like design. And it allowed you to traverse different areas you couldn't go through before, just by flipping back and forth between both worlds. And and I really dug this idea, that I actually started researching who it was, and I found out that Amy Hennig actually directed it. It was a great director. For the longest time, I've had her name in my brain. And I was really sad that after Soul Reaver 2, any mention of her just kind of disappeared, like completely. And the funniest thing to me is that I didn't know that she was actually responsible for one of my favorite, series or franchises to date, until Uncharted 3, when they mentioned that she was working on it. And I was like, wait a second, Amy Hennig, I remember her. She made Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. That game and the Uncharted series couldn't be any more different.
Yeah, they're polar opposites.
Yeah, but little did I know that she was responsible for the series since the very first one. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that she was working on this.
But I would say that the one consistent between the two series, and I think is evidence of her talent, is that both of them do have a very strong sense of cinematography. So she clearly has a lot of talent in how she presents the cutscenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Legacy of Kain games have... Yeah, you were saying before, the dialogue can be a little pretentious, but those are still great narratives, presented excellently.
Yeah, and yeah, I kind of made fun of it a little bit, but like thinking about the context though within that game world, it delivered something that was fresh and something that was new that no other game during its release actually had. It had its own identity, and because of the hoity-toityness or what have you of the dialogue, it really stood out for that purpose, for better or for worse, right? I mean, for better, obviously.
I would say even though the dialogue can be a little pretentious, like it still fits. It still feels like it's part of that world, and I think it can be forgiven.
Yeah. I mean, then your brain goes into these different conversations and imagination scenarios where it's like, I wonder how they talk during dinner. It's like they're having a casual conversation. It's like, good sir, cheerio, pop. Like, I think, what?
How dare you serve me this food? It is a fluvial grime, is what it is.
Okay, that's a lot better, actually. Jesus Christ. Okay, didn't know we were gonna go in that direction, but that's very interesting. It's like masterpiece theater on Backlog Battle. It's crazy. Yeah, fa, and you twirl your like curly mustache and stuff.
Drink our wine.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so that's, man, what a great way to kind of start this show. Like it's funny because like we've talked many times before, and often many hours, off of the show and stuff, and sometimes we get really granular and we talk about game design and stuff, and honestly, like, I want to kind of veer the conversation toward the complete opposite of what you might be expecting this podcast to go, which is games. Well, it's kind of gamey, but really, this isn't really a video game topic, more so, because I know, like, one of the things that you do, too, is sometimes you watch anime. So today, actually, surprisingly enough, you might have seen my Twitter post on this, but I actually started watching Gamers today.
I didn't see that tweet. Interesting.
Yeah.
I have not seen that anime. Do tell.
Okay, so this is kind of silly because a lot of people have been posting like image macros of it and stuff like all over the place, right? Well, specifically Twitter, really, because my Facebook friends are so boring that they don't post anything but like, this is what I ate. This is what I went on vacation for. Anyways, Gamers is... Man, I can't believe I'm explaining this to you. I thought you would have watched this.
No, man. When it comes to anime, I'm an old fuck.
Okay, me too. Like, people might make fun of me for this, but my favorite animes are like fucking GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka, Rurouni Kenshin, except the third fucking arc that never existed. Okay, never existed. Hey, those are
good anime.
Yeah, but the third act is ridiculous. When they start doing the whole Christian angle, I'm like, I'm an atheist, but holy shit, that was terrible compared to the Legend of Kyoto. I mean, wow, they should.
Yeah. I'll let you in on a little something that wasn't in the manga.
Oh, okay.
That was added in just because the show was successful. So they had gotten a completely different studio to continue the show and make more episodes that are basically just thrown in there to capitalize on the popularity and run it into the ground.
Okay, yeah. Like I said,
so I hope that makes you feel better.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, that third act never existed. That never happened. In fact, like if you actually watch the Rurouni Kenshin live action movie, which I did, by the way, which was awesome. By the way, they never even mention anything about, of course, the Christian storyline. It's just, it's just the legacy, the Legend of Kyoto characters, which is fantastic. Anyways, so Gamers is basically a romantic comedy. It's not about video games at all. The video games are a backdrop to what's going on. And basically how it is that this really hot chick in high school, because why not? It's a fucking anime. It's high school, right?
Of course.
Tries to invite this super nerdy dude into her gamer club that she, stealthily revived from the dead. Like, I'm not literally, right? But like, basically, like, the game club didn't exist before. Excuse me. And she revived it secretly because she has a stature and stuff as the popular girl and whatnot. And he turns her down. And somehow this causes this kind of cat and mouse game of relationships to happen that revolve around these two characters and several others, which is kind of crazy because I didn't expect this to be a romantic comedy. Maybe I should have researched it. But from time to time, you are greeted with gameplay from Guilty Gear, Xrd or Persona, Ultimax for some fucking reason. And as, again, used as a backdrop for like what's really going on, which is, a lot of misunderstanding / romantic comedy kind of situations. So I don't know why I'm bringing this up on a gaming podcast when it has barely anything to do with a gaming at all, like at the end. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up in the event that you actually knew something about it. But there you go.
I don't, but let me salvage it by recommending an anime that actually does have video games in it.
Please don't say Dot Hack. Please don't say.
No. Okay. No. I'm not really a fan of Dot Hack.
Me too.
It's called, and when you hear the name, there's absolutely nothing religious about it. Trust me. Okay. It's called The World God Only Knows. God is actually referring to the main character because he's considered the god of like dating sims.
What? That sounds ridiculous.
It's awesome. So it's hilarious. The show doesn't take itself seriously at all. Like, it's just completely ridiculous. And what happens is, like, the main character is this crazy gamer that, like, he is constantly playing games. He has not a PSP, he has a PFP.
Okay.
Which basically just looks like a PSP.
Yeah.
And he is constantly walking around playing it. He's playing it in class.
Wow.
And the only reason he gets away with it is because he's also a genius and he aces all of his tests.
Holy
shit. His teachers just let him do it, and he's constantly playing games. So, it brings in this weird thing, where there are these like death gods, and yeah, it gets weird.
Okay, yeah,
but it's it's in the first episode though, so it's part of what the show is.
Look, man, you already hooked me when you said like god of visual novels. I was like, man, that's like. Fucking, what's the name of the... Okay, I'm literally like typing this down as part of the show notes, but I really want to check out the anime. What's it called?
The World God Only Knows. But get this. The reason the death god finds him is because they are these lost souls that find themselves in girls most of the time.
What?
And yeah. But here's the thing. Because he's like the god of visual novels, this character mistook him as being like really good with women. Oh man. And the only way to get these souls is for the girls to fall in love.
Oh my god.
So he uses his knowledge of visual novels and dating sims in order to get these girls to fall in love with him.
That's hilarious.
It's so good.
It's so funny because in Gamers, one of the characters actually tells the main protagonist, "Say, look, I know you think you're like some sort of Casanova because you play visual novels, but guess what? Visual novels won't help you get a girl in real life." And I just it's funny how this
that to this guy. He makes it work.
Jesus Christ, that's pretty amazing. All right. Again,
he says hilarious things like when he's talking to her, if he says like the right thing, he'll be like, "I've activated the flag. Now we're on the right route."
Oh my god! What the? Oh, okay, I get it now. Because I was like, wait, what flag? Oh, meaning like, yeah, wow, that's
this show, it's just fun. It's just a fun show. Don't take it seriously. It's just a hilarious comedy. It's fun. Give it a shot. It's good.
Where is it available? Is it like available to buy and stuff?
I think it's on Crunchyroll, if I'm not mistaken, and it is being distributed for sure by Sentai Filmworks.
Okay. All right. So I just did a quick search on Amazon.com. It says the world God only knows Ultimate Collection, which I'm guessing this is everything, but I'm not entirely sure.
I think there's like 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Let me click on this. It says 40 episodes. That might be everything.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah, and it's on Blu-ray. It's 56.77 on Blu-ray, 46.38 on DVD if you're a Prime member. And with that said, I'm going to take this opportunity to shill and remind people that we have an Amazon link, which is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. That's one word. Once again, that is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle, which I'm going to use to purchase this thing right here. And
wow, I can't believe I sold you that hard.
I know. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it doesn't really take too much to sell me on things. But that being said, though, if you are a Prime member, just remember that you can do pre-orders on Amazon.com, and if you do that, you get 20% off on the list price. So, for example, if you buy a $60 game and pre-order it, actually, and pay it off or whatever, you'll basically get it for $47.99 if your state doesn't tax it. Now, if you buy, I don't know, 6 video games at that price, you actually technically get 1 game free because you've saved all that money enough for 1 video game. I know, that's a lot of video games, like 6 video games at like $47.99, but that's the logic that I got. Again, use the code, or rather the link, bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle, and we thank you for your support. And check out.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, sweet. I don't know when it's going to be arriving here, but anyways, thanks. And here's a guy who doesn't have a job, and you're making him spend money. Be ashamed of yourself.
I did not tell you to do anything, man. That was all of your own volition.
Okay, all right. I will take the responsibility. All right. So now that all that's said and done, I want to kind of switch over to something that I want to try for this episode of the show, which is news articles. And you've actually helped me compile some of the news articles and stuff, and I actually have it here. So I am very opinionated, as you know, but since you're a guest on the show, I would like to hear your opinions of some of these topics. Are you ready for this?
Of course. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first one is actually something you didn't send me, but has happened recently, which is Atlus tries to shut down an emulator for prominently featuring Persona 5. Now, basically, like, they tried to shut down, like, this, I think it was an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter. it was a Patreon for this thing. And, of course, they were unsuccessful in doing so. If anything, it just made the emulation company remove references of Persona 5 in the game. And Patreon actually said that this is a gray area, which, I don't know. What do you think about it?
So are they making the emulator, or?
Yeah, these guys are the guys on Patreon are making the emulator. And
okay.
And like I said, in the marketing, they prominently featured Persona 5 on there, and Atlus wanted to just outright shut it down, And Patreon, of course, is like, well, this is a gray area. I don't know, which I don't know.
Okay, I would say that it's definitely their fault for saying anything about Persona 5. I think to have remained a little bit more in like a legal area, they probably should have just simply said that they were making the emulator and not have mentioned any specific games.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's especially bad that they were like, hey, you could play Persona 5 on this. Mm-hmm. They were asking for trouble at that point.
Yeah, what's more surprising to me is Patreon's retort that it's a gray area. This is, from my understanding, all sorts of software is protected, including the way that you use it, is protected by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which basically means that if you're using if you've downloaded Persona 5 or using a disc or anything like that in any sort of manner, and you emulate it on any sort of hardware that is not intended to actually run it natively, that it is a violation of that. You know, it's kind of like the whole arguments with Bleem. You remember that for the Dreamcast? You know how you could play like upscaled PlayStation 1 games on the Dreamcast and stuff? Like,
yeah.
And they just got shut down.
I remember Tekken and MGS1 got made.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we're still having this conversation, and for a technically a tech company, right? Patreon is technically a tech company because they run a website and a services website that deals with stuff like this. Like I would imagine, like, you know, Patreon would be like, no, this is not cool. You're emulating something. And the funny thing to me about this story, Daniel, is that Atlus didn't actually approach Sony first for this, because I feel like this is more of a bigger deal on Sony's end, because again, this is emulating proprietary software that Sony has built for, you know, their PlayStation platforms, because it has to bypass that in order to run Persona 5 anyway, right? So yeah.
I do know that there is a PS2 emulator that if you use it, you can actually put in your official PS2 discs in your PC and play them off the disc. Mm-hmm. However, I'm not sure how legal or illegal that is, and I don't know if this emulator allows you to do that. Like if you could put in a PS4 disc.
Yeah.
So do you know if that's like any more or less legal, or if it's still not allowed?
I think that's illegal, because I think, and mind you, I've had experiences emulating the PS1. Because the reason why I wanted to do that was because I actually wanted to play this visual novel. There we go again. With an English patch. So I actually wanted to and I have the Japanese version, right, of the game. I actually have almost all of the games in the series, but I instead of going to GameFAQs and just looking up translations, I actually wanted to play it as if the English was actually there. So when I did that, what I was surprised is that the emulators actually, in order for you to play some of the games, it actually required you to download a kind of ripped copy of the kind of like the I don't really know what it is, but it's some sort of interpreter file that the PlayStation has in order for it to actually run things properly. So it's almost like a rip off of the CPU or some sort of image file of like something that the PlayStation uses when it's running games. And I think just by virtue of using those files, you're already violating the DMCA for it. Because really, you're not supposed to kind of use those outside of its intended purpose. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer. Like, Daniel's not a lawyer either. You're a lab technician. But I think that's where the gray area here is, where Patreon's kind of like approaching it. And I think, you know, and sad to say, like, even Atlus admits that they wish Persona 5 is on PC. But the other side of the conversation here is that the reason why there's so much support for this emulator is because there's a lot of PC gamers who do want to play Persona 5. And it's a bit short-sighted for Atlus not to actually do that. But at the same time, you have to understand, too, where Atlus is coming from. They would be making a game where the platform of choice, or the requested platform, is not a prominent platform in Japan. So it's almost like now they have to almost reinvent the wheel and actually deconstruct a game that was built on PS3 and PS4 to be able to work now on PC, which, let's be honest, Japan is not big on PC gaming, you know? So
no, not really, which is a shame, because I think that if they made the effort, I think they'd have a more substantial hold on the Western market through Steam.
Yeah. And you know, you brought up Nier Automata, which we're actually going to get next in this news article thing. Nier Automata's Steam version has not had a major patch to fix some of the issues on PC. So, and I guess this is a good way to segue into the fact that Nier Automata has sold 2 million units. Yay! Woo! And how much of those are actually broken PC copies, I wonder, which is really sad. I didn't mean it to be a downer. This is something to celebrate, because Nier Automata, 2 million copies. Who the fuck thought that was actually going to happen? I didn't.
I did not. I think it's probably sold more than all of Yoko Taro's games combined.
Wow. That's basically what, like Drakengard 1 to 3 plus Nier. Well, both versions of Nier, right? Holy crap.
Yeah. Like, those games did not sell well at all. I think the only one that sold okay was the first Drakengard. But Drakengard 2, Drakengard 3, Nier, none of them really sold. And this one just, like, completely annihilated all of them in sales.
Yeah. It's crazy. And again, like, this is the pairing of Yoko Taro and Platinum Games is fucking fantastic. Like,
it's magic.
Yeah, I have never played a Nier game or a Yoko Taro game in my entire freaking life. And I have an idea of what Platinum Games is, because obviously, you know, like Bayonetta and all those other games that they've made. Like, I think, Clover made Okami. I'm like trying to think here.
Well, Clover eventually became Platinum Games.
Right. Well, I still don't count that, even though, like, they made like Mad World, right, for the Wii.
Platinum Games did.
Oh yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah, that's one game. Yay. Cool. So I think this is fantastic. I hope we get a new Nier or at least another Yoko Taro game, especially with how this game specifically has been well received. You know, like I'm stoked. I'm super excited. Now, you just started playing Nier Automata recently, right?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I love it so far.
So you haven't actually gotten any of the endings?
No, I haven't gotten any of the endings yet. I'm still playing as 2B, but I am really enjoying the game. The gameplay is easily the best out of any Yoko Taro game. Like, it's like, woo!
Yeah.
Like, miles better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kavia made the other games. Who I think Kavia was responsible for that one game, Bullet Witch, which was not that good, if I remember.
Oh God, I hated Bullet Witch.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually did a video review of Bullet Witch probably a few years ago.
Oof.
And yeah, just remembering it.
Yeah.
That game was rough.
Yeah, that was the same company that made Nier. That's kind of crazy to think about.
To be fair, though, Nier was way more playable than Bullet Witch. Like,
good.
The first Nier was also probably the most playable Yoko Taro game before Automata, and its gameplay was fine. Like, it wasn't particularly great or anything, but it wasn't like complete shit.
Yeah. I hear you. But again, congratulations to Nier Automata selling 2 million units. Hopefully it sells more, especially with word of mouth and all that good stuff, because it's really fantastic.
Absolutely. And I want to also say, if you're interested in getting into the series and you are hesitant to jump into Nier Automata, like Nier Automata, you don't really need to know anything.
Yeah.
You can just jump into it. But if you're still not satisfied with that, there's actually a guy named Mr. Klemps who has made videos on Drakengards 1, 2, 3, and Nier, and he gives a very detailed overview of each of those games. So if you want to know, I recommend watching his videos, and he will give you most of the details that are like relevant to those games.
I want to say I actually watched some of his videos before I played Nier Automata, so that's actually really good advice. So, okay.
I think his videos are really good. Definitely recommended.
Yeah. Okay, so our last news article is Stardew Valley heading to Nintendo Switch, and I am not a Harvest Moon guy. Are you?
Sadly, I'm not.
Okay. So, but I guess there's a reason why we picked this. I mean, Stardew Valley is a fantastic game either way. I do have it. I've played it, And thankfully, it's not like Animal Crossing where my crops are going to die if I leave it many, many months or years not played, because it'll just be there. This is great. That game has to be on more platforms, other than PC. And it's amazing to me that one guy made this game, Daniel. It's amazing to me. And you and I have been reading Blood, Sweat, and Pixels lately, and just hearing about like what they're talking about, like the sacrifices that he made. Like, he actually worked as an usher in a movie theater in between, building the game, and just the OCD-ness of him. And I'm not saying this to disparage the character and the developer of the game. I'm just saying, like, I mean, there is a reason why the book is called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, right? I mean,
yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed the book as a whole, and that chapter, along with a few other chapters, inspired me to want to get the games from those developers. So I do have Stardew Valley now on my Steam wish list. So I haven't bought it yet, but it's on my wish list, and I'm going to wait for a sale or something, and I'll definitely pick it up, because even though I may not necessarily be like a huge fan of like Harvest Moon, which was the developer's inspiration, I definitely respect the amount of time and effort that he put into this game. I think it was 5 long years making this game, and I have to respect his commitment to the work. And hearing his struggle and the trials and tribulations in that chapter was inspiring. Like, it really was. Like, it's incredible, the amount of time and effort he put into that game. And I'm looking forward to playing it myself and seeing all of that, because it was a labor of love, and to see that handcrafted look and feel of the game,
right? Yeah.
Like, he said that he redid character portraits like dozens and dozens and dozens of times just to make sure it was like perfectly right. Like, Jesus. I have to justify that work by, by getting the game.
Wow, that's very thoughtful of you. One game that I actually picked up recently, which was being compared a lot to Stardew Valley, even though I don't think they're actually very similar to each other, though the motif and the theme of you giving up your work in order to do what you love is a common theme between the two, is actually another game that got released actually yesterday as of this recording, which is called Golf Story. Have you heard of this game?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen any gameplay or anything.
Yeah, so Golf Story, as you probably can imagine, is a golf game that has RPG elements. Now, let me say that again. It's a golf RPG with RPG elements. Now, you're not going to battle, golfers by swatting them with golf clubs in their face or running them over with golf carts. That's not happening here. But
dude, wouldn't that be amazing? You could level up, and then you could get skill obtained birdie.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because there are golf powers. So there's different swings that you can do that, it's kind of crazy, because it still uses the old school thing of you hit the A button once, and then you hit A at the very top to determine the distance, and then you have to hit A in the middle of this area on the right side as it goes back in the middle, so that it determines your accuracy. So it's still that old school video game golf mentality, that old golf games had, but
now you can do a power swing.
Well, now you can actually tee off anywhere. So it's almost like each golf course is this open world town /RPG /dungeony. Well, there are no dungeons in the game environment, but you could just tee off anywhere, because one of the things that you can do is you can actually use your golf skills to try to hit switches and figure out secret areas that might open up, which is strange for a game that is a golf game, to find secret areas in a golf course.
You know what, though? This is going to be the most esoteric and strange, obscure fact that I'm going to throw at you.
Okay.
But there is a Rugrats PS1 game, and in it there is a mini golf like mini game, and in one of the golf courses there is a freaking pyramid thing and that you can go into, and there is like this labyrinthian maze inside where you can like explore it, and I think you can like find some secrets in there.
Whoa.
So it's been done before.
Whoa. Well, the idea of Golf Story, from what I've read, and I researched it because I wasn't sure what it was all about. Apparently, the concept of Golf Story is, again, actually inspired by an earlier game, much like Stardew Valley was inspired by Harvest Moon. Can you figure out what game inspired Golf Story?
I have no idea.
Mario Golf for the Game Boy.
Oh, wow, okay.
Apparently, Mario Golf for the Game Boy was golf with RPG elements as well, but nobody actually had thought of elaborating on the idea until now. And that's what we got. We got Golf Story because of it. So...
awesome.
Yeah, so it's like $14.99. It's on the Nintendo Switch only, from what I can tell. I don't know if it's on Steam. Maybe it is, but who knows? But I'm playing it on Switch. It's an amazing game. You should check it out. Yes, I'm calling a golf game amazing. Okay, deal with it. But yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyways, let's kind of switch gears here because we're heading towards like the end of the show, sadly, which is really, really sad because I've really been enjoying this time with you. But before that, I want to remind people that we are on several social networks. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Search for My Backlog Battle. That's all one word. So basically twitter.com/MyBacklogBattle, Facebook.com/MyBacklogBattle, and Instagram.com/MyBacklogBattle, and on Snapchat, which I don't use a lot. I don't Snapchat yet, but maybe I'll find a reason why. The reason why is because you can then participate in these community conversations that we have with our audience. And unlike the last time, I'm not going to be able to read everything because a lot of people really were emphatic about like the responses here. So let's do this. Like let's actually read last week's question, which is, what's your favorite RPG released in the past 5 years? Can you name me what yours is, Daniel?
I don't think I can, just because there have been so many great JRPGs that have come out in the past 5 years that for me to pick only one, I can't. There's like, how can I say that I prefer Yakuza 0 over like Persona 5? Like, I like them for such very different reasons. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. So I can't pick just one. I'll give you a list, but then that wouldn't be fair. So I can't do it.
It's funny you mention that because our community actually thought of making lists as well and kind of really avoiding the question altogether, really. Let me read some of them. Chris says his is Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2, which, by the way, there's a lot of people who actually put Trails of Cold Steel on their lists. Ys 8, Ys 4, Persona 5, Tales of Xillia, Ni no Kuni, SMT4, Stella Glow. You know what's really funny about this is Matt actually commented and said, "Holy shit, I can't believe I forgot Ni no Kuni." You know, more to the point, I can't believe I forgot motherfucking Xenoblade. Which is, have you played Xenoblade Chronicles?
No, I do have it, but I did play Xenoblade Chronicles X.
The Wii version.
I played a good chunk of it, and I was thoroughly unimpressed by the writing, but I had a lot of fun running around the gorgeous world and leveling up and stuff.
Yeah, see, like X feels like a side story to me, and Xenoblade Chronicles is actually really good from a story perspective. So I think,
I've heard.
Yeah, so I think you should use whiteout and delete everything that you know about Xenoblade Chronicles. Just put X aside and start playing the original. Or if you get a Switch by the holidays, get the second one, because I think that's going to be good.
The second one does look like a good game for sure.
Oh yeah, totally. Anyways, Luis actually says Witcher 3 still a glow and Ys 8. And there are a lot of people who have placed Ys as like one of their favorite games over the past 5 years. Although, how many Ys games were actually released over the past 5 years? There couldn't have been a lot, right?
Let's see.
I mean, not counting remakes and reissues.
If we're not counting remakes, I'd still say that there's been a good number. Now, I might be fuzzy a little bit on the years, but I think Ys Origin for sure, Ys 7, Ys 8 might be stretching it with Oath and Felghana because it's a reimagining of Ys 3.
I see. Yeah, that counts. That counts as a remake and reissue or whatever.
Right. And so. Ys Celceta is also a reimagining of Ys 4.
I see. Okay. I see. Okay.
So neither of them are straight remakes, but they do take like a lot of the baselines of the original titles and they either expand upon them or they do like completely different things with them, almost to the point where they're completely different games, but they still are borrowing from the originals in some capacity.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Let me read Matt's. So just because, like I read some of Matt's replies earlier and I thought it was really funny, so I'll read his. It's a top 10 list. Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel, duh, right? we've heard that before. Nier and Nier Automata, again, both in the same spot, I guess. Yeah. Bloodborne, if that counts, yes, it does. Yakuza 0, yes, that counts too. Cosmic Star Heroine, Bravely Default, which, man, I want to finish that game. Bravely Default is probably one of my favorite games of the past gen.
I don't have that game.
Oh, it's great. It really is good. You should get it if there's a sale and all that stuff. It's actually credited as the reason why Square Enix is looking to make more turn-based RPGs. That game.
Yeah, I picked up the sequel. But I didn't touch it because I wanted to play the first one first.
And that's correct, because they're actually chronologically connected. So you don't want to go to the second one without playing the first one. But the first one is really, really good. Like in terms of like the battle system, it has a traditional job system, which is kind of fantastic. So
I do like Final Fantasy V.
Yes. Going through the list again: Persona 5, Skyrim, and The Witcher 3. He said The Witcher, but I'm thinking it's The Witcher 3. Okay. Let's see here. Let's read some other people's stuff. Sean says his is Witcher 3. So Witcher 3 is mentioned a lot, by the way, in this list. Xenoblade Chronicles.
I thought it was JRPGs. The question.
No, it just says favorite RPG.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So it could be anything. It could be that. Xenoblade Chronicles, Berseria, which you've played and loved.
Woo!
And Dragon Age Inquisition, which is fantastic, and talked about in the book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, which you can get, by the way, from Amazon.com. Use our link bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. Anyways, sorry, I can't help but shill for that particular purpose. I do love the book, though.
Hey, man, it's a good book. It's really good.
Yeah, right? Like, who the fuck thought? Like, we were going to be plugging books in this show for some reason.
It's a good fucking book.
It's great. By the way, kind of like an off topic, I did pick up Masters of Doom today.
Yes.
So I'm going to be listening to that once I head to the gym after we record this podcast. So,
awesome book. Excellent stuff.
Awesome. And again, so I want to read everything here because I've actually read these like separately, like in my own time. But I do want to thank everybody who took the time to kind of respond to these questions and all the other questions that we post on all the social media, which again, I want to restate. The social medias are Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Search me on those as My Backlog Battle, and let's have a conversation. Let's have fun, like playing video games and talking about them. All right? Right. Cool. The last segment that we always close the show with, Daniel, is, have something to do with community questions. And from time to time, we get some really funny ones. Time to time, we get some really crazy ones. This one, and not judging, just saying this is quite a, interesting name. This comes from 360 No Scope 420 Blaze at 69. Yes, I actually said that without breathing. His or her question, let's not be sexist here. What is your opinion on the current state of VR? And do you think second generation hardware is coming soon? So basically, should I dive in now or should I wait? What do you think?
I think that if there is a second generation of VR hardware, I don't think it'll be for a while. I think VR is kind of dead in the water at the moment. I feel that there isn't a whole lot of support. There have been a few announcements here and there. Very strangely, Zone of the Enders 2 is getting a VR version.
Yeah.
The weirdest game to get a VR port, because it's not even in first person. But whatever.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me too. I'm like, wait a second, this is a third-person fighting game almost. This is kind of weird.
It's a fantastic game, so to see that it's getting a re-release on one hand is great. It's going to get a 4K version, which is cool. I mean, I don't have a 4K TV, but still, whatever. Mm-hmm. I love the game, so that's awesome. But that must be so disorienting in VR. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I can only imagine what they're gonna do with that game, but I don't know. I would much rather see the final product and then judge from there, because I do have a PSVR and I am curious what they're gonna do with it. That game specifically, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, that game aside, and I think they announced a few other games that are VR, mostly Bethesda games, but. I mean, I don't really think VR is really getting a whole lot of traction. I think it was a flash in the pan fad for a bit, but I don't really hear people talking about it as much. And I did personally try PlayStation VR once, twice actually, and I was very disappointed by the quality. It looked blurry, and I was not really digging that. Maybe the Oculus is better. Maybe that looks cleaner. I'm not sure. I just remember trying the PlayStation VR and going, "Ooh, this looks like looks like it should look a lot better."
Yeah, it's in GDC. They actually mentioned that games are mandated to actually run at 60 frames per second. So there's a lot of compromise when it comes to video quality on the PlayStation VR, because the PlayStation 4 is not really that powerful of a system compared to an Oculus required, system. That being said, it's not going to run into problems with that Oculus users actually run into, which is if your hardware is too weak, then it will induce delays in processing of the head movement, which would cause a lot more motion sickness than anything else. And so that's why the PlayStation VR is like that. That being said, there is no mandate for Vive or Oculus developers to keep their game at 60 frames per second, which is bad, because if you want to be, not only do you want to be immersed in the game, but you want to make sure that the game is moving so fluidly that it's not going to make you dizzy. And the only way that you can do that is if you increase the frame rate. I've had personal experience with PlayStation VR. Like I said, I've played Resident Evil 7 exclusively in VR, actually. And it's not something that is easy to play in VR. And as with most games too in VR, by the way. A good example of what I'm saying is, in most video games, you can play for hours on end, play Resident Evil 7 without VR, but VR has a physiological challenge that actually prevents you from playing the game. And the way that I describe it is, you're not physically moving in these environments, so your body is not ready to process what you're actually seeing, because they're inherently tied to what you're seeing in the headset. And that's actually what causes motion sickness. And until they actually figured out a way to mitigate that or even help it out, I don't think VR is actually going to go anywhere moving forward. Because also the other issue here is, the chords, the chords that are on the system, because when you touch the chords, it's very immersion breaking already. And no wireless technology out there has been fast enough and secure enough in order to maintain a 60 frames per second bandwidth, and an instant output onto the screen. It's just virtually impossible right now. No pun intended, I guess. So, yeah, I'm serious. I didn't even intend that. That being said, though, I don't think you should dive in right now. I think you should wait. Better technology will pop up eventually. If you have a PlayStation 4, I do highly recommend a PlayStation VR if you just want to play around with VR, because the PlayStation 4 is leading when it comes to PlayStation games, or is leading when it comes to VR games, period. There are games that are exclusive to Oculus. There are games that are exclusive to the Vive, but I can guarantee you that the ones that you'll have a lot of fun with are on the PlayStation 4. And I'm not just talking about Resident Evil 7. I'm also talking about Farpoint, which you probably haven't tried Farpoint, Daniel. It's a fantastic shooting game on PlayStation VR. It's really fucking good. Really amazing.
I think I've seen footage of it. It did look cool.
Yeah, but you're actually holding a gun and, moving through the environment and stuff. Because I actually played that game standing up. And there's a thumbstick. If you can imagine, you're holding it kind of like a rifle, and where the handle is, where the handle closer to your chest is, there's actually a thumbstick there that actually controls your movement. And then, of course, because it's a gun, you just aim it into virtual space, and that's actually how you shoot. And it's surprisingly super fucking intuitive. It's really amazing. So if you get a chance to be able to play it in your friend's house or whatever, you should go try it out, because I think that's a really good case for VR. So
okay, I'll head over to my coworker's house and give it a shot. I think he said that he had it. So
nice, yeah, it's really, really good. Also, one thing that will improve the look of PlayStation VR games is a PlayStation 4 Pro. So if you really, I mean, it's still going to be blurry in some cases, but for the most part, you'll have a clearer peripheral vision. Because how the PlayStation VR works is that it kind of shrinks your peripheral vision a little bit and makes the edges blurry, because that's additional rendering that would require to render the sides a lot crisper. So that's what they actually do, is they actually kind of do a little bit of cheating when it comes to rendering when you're on regular PlayStation. But like I said, PlayStation 4 Pro, pretty damn crisp by comparison. So anyways, thank you very much for that question. 360 NoScope 420 Blaze it 69. If you have any additional questions, comments, or suggestions for today's show, please email us at podcast@myBacklogBattle.tv, or you can contact us using direct message, reply, or anything like that on the other social medias that we're on. Just search for My Backlog Battle on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, and you'll find us. You'll find us right there, and you can just send us a message, and we'll read it on the show. But that being said, Daniel, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've really had a lot of fun. This went by so frigging fast that,
yeah, for real.
I want you to come back on the show in the future, because this is really friggin' fun. I haven't had this much fun in a very long time. So thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun too, and I'll definitely gladly come back if you'll have me.
No, absolutely. So before we go, I do encourage everybody to check out Daniel's channel, which is youtube.com/Shintai Reviews. Once again, that is spelled SHINTAI Reviews, spelled how it is with an S. And, go subscribe to his podcast, which is the Final Bosses Podcast. It's really excellent. And there's a lot of insight to game design and his video game reviews are really on point. And some of it's like really super entertaining and informative at the same time. And
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That being said, that about does it for this episode of the Backlog Battle Podcast. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday, where we have a brand new episode every single week. We've never missed a single week for the past 3 years, and we're not about to do so anytime soon. So until later, guys, this is Alex on behalf of Anthony and Daniel saying take care and happy gaming.